Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Details of Queen Elizabeth's funeral on Monday have been announced by Buckingham Palace. At the end of the service in Westminster Abbey, there will be a national 2-minute silence. A procession will then carry the Queen's coffin, which is currently lying in state, through London for a final time before it is taken to Windsor. A smaller service will then take place at St George's Chapel next to Windsor Castle. After that, the Queen's coffin will be laid in the Royal Vault beside her husband, the late Duke of Edinburgh, who died in April last year. Meanwhile, members of Britain's military carried out a rehearsal for Queen Elizabeth's funeral procession in the early hours of Thursday morning. Thousands of personnel marched from Buckingham Palace to Parliament Square in final preparations for the funeral on Monday. The rehearsal, which took place before sunrise, saw pallbearers carry an empty black coffin into Westminster Abbey, and members from the Navy pulling a gun carriage which will carry the Queen's coffin during the real procession. World leaders have already started travelling to the UK in preparation for Queen Elizabeth's funeral. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese here boarding a plane in Sydney. Local media reported government officials from Tuvalu, Samoa, the Solomon Islands and Papua New Guinea accompanied Albanese on the Royal Australian Air Force flight, along with the Governor-General of Australia, Sir David Hurley. The queue to see Queen Elizabeth lying in state has been growing through the day, at one point measuring 4.2 miles long. This is what the long line of people looks like from the air, snaking from the Oxo Tower on the south bank of the Thames to the Palace of Westminster. Thousands of mourners queued for many hours through the night for their chance to file past the coffin, some waiting for up to 30 hours to pay their respects. In other news, officials say Russian missiles have hit a reservoir dam near the southern Ukrainian city of Kryvyi Rih. City head Alexander Vikul said residents in some areas were told to evacuate, but he added the situation was under control. Ukraine said the strike was revenged by Russia for its recent counterattack. President Volodymyr Zelensky, who was born in the city, described Russia as a terrorist state after the attack on the reservoir. President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, arrived in Kiev to show European support for Ukraine in its fight against Russia's invasion. As she got off the train, the bloc's leader was welcomed by Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Olga Stefanshyna. Von der Leyen announced she would meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the country's Prime Minister to discuss how to continue getting our economies and people closer while Ukraine progresses towards accession. It is von der Leyen's third visit to Ukraine's capital since Russia's invasion. Sweden's Prime Minister has resigned after her government was defeated in the country's election.
Hej och välkomna till den här...
Magdalena Andersson's centre-left coalition looks set to narrowly lose to a bloc of right-wing parties, 176 seats to 173, with 99% of the votes counted. Moderate party leader Ulf Kristersson is now expected to form a government. The bloc includes the Sweden Democrats, a far-right party that has campaigned against rising gang shootings. It is a huge blow to Andersson's Social Democrats, which gained votes compared to the last election and remained Sweden's largest party. And finally, Dutch students have been showing off their brand new carbon-eating electric car. Resembling a BMW coupe, the ZEM, or Zero Emission Mobility, captures more carbon than it emits. The two-seater houses a Cliantron lithium-ion battery pack, and most of its parts are 3D printed from recycled plastics. The target is to minimize carbon dioxide emitted during the car's full lifespan. The students are showing their vehicle on a US promotional tour to universities and companies from East Coast to Silicon Valley. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.